Welcome, Death Valley Insider, everybody, to the fifth quarter, the LSU Arkansas game. LSU pulled out a very close 34-31 victory. Uh, this game was way closer than I expected, than I want to say just about anybody expected, because LSU was favored by 17 or 17 and a half, depending on where you got the number in Vegas. There was also a roughly a 55, I believe it was, over and under for this game. So Vegas was pretty much telling you from jump, hey, look, LSU is probably going to score about 30 something, maybe 40 points, and just blow Arkansas out of the water. We did not get that game. We got a very competitive game, a very up and down game, a very back and forth game, a game that was totally unexpected because Arkansas was able to put up points on LSU's defense. They were able to march up and down the field just almost at will at certain points. They were able to run the ball and throw the ball effectively. Uh, you know, there was some plays there that LSU failed to make early on that could have totally changed the tide of this game to start off with. However, Arkansas did not take as much advantage of those plays as they should have, I believe. They were able to hang in there, have a lead for some points, and then LSU just started taking control, coming back. Arkansas allowed themselves to get back into the game by just working the ball down the field and never getting down by two or more scores to the point where they couldn't come back. This was a very interesting game, nonetheless. I did some, conversating with one of the guys from Hogbeat, Arkansas's rivals website, Thursday, and we talked about, just going over the game. One of the things that I always like to ask guys when I talk to them about their team is there someone on offense and or on defense that LSU, their fans, this team should look out for? And he specifically, outside of the obvious, KJ Jefferson, a very good, returning veteran quarterback for Arkansas. He said Luke Haas. And when he said that, I was like, okay, I get it. I see, where you're coming from with this. And I see, a tight end, 6'3", about 240, matchup nightmare, willing blocker, not like a great blocker at tight end, but a very good blocker, capable blocker at tight end. But he said he's like, he's a guy that I just believe will have a good game, and he's somebody that's athletic, that plays kind of that flex, H back kind of tight end position. And he went off for 6 catches, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns against this defense. And it's just one of those things where you kind of look for someone outside of the obvious who could impact this game greatly. And when he said Luke Haas, I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. He can try to take advantage of LSU's pass coverage, deficiencies so far that they suffered this year. I don't know, because that defensive line is rounding into shape with Mason Smith coming back and guys will rotate in and out along the defensive line. The DBs are finally healthy, and guys are getting steady playing time. So LSU is coming into this game, performing better themselves where they had those deficiencies at. And Luke Haas just said, "Screw all that. I'm here. I'm announcing myself. I'm here to stay, and I'm going to be a problem for the next couple years until I decide to move on to the next level." So that was really, kind of, I don't want to say it was cool or good to see. I didn't want to see that come to fruition, because it kind of hurt LSU, but it's cool to see when a guy knows his team and you ask those questions and you look for that player and then that player shows up and shows out. So to just as a fan of football, just to see a guy like that just show up and show out when he was called upon, by a guy that covers that team, that's awesome. Jayden Daniels, he had an interception this game, but he went 20 or 29. Interestingly enough, He his we'll take out the last pass because it was a shot in the end zone to Malik Neighbors just to see maybe if Malik will come up with the ball, come down with a touchdown, and seal the game. He didn't come up with a touchdown. However, his first 14 passes, Jayden Daniels was 7 of 14 with that interception. Not very good. His next 14 passes, he was 13 of 14. Excellent. And he got in sync. And it's good to see when the quarterback of the team that you're covering can just get in sync like that and just gel so well with his receivers. Again, Malik Neighbors had another big game, 8 for 130 and 2 more touchdowns. But also Brian Thomas Jr. had 5 for 133 and 2 touchdowns as well. Those guys are just showing up big. And, going into the season, I was asked about who besides Malik Neighbors will show up and show out for this LSU receiving corps. I figured it would be Kyron Lacy and maybe Mason Taylor. Not only has Kyron Lacy shown up big, but Mason Taylor has been pretty consistent at the tight end position. Brian Thomas Jr. has been a revelation. Big, strong, fast, physical guy at receiver. So has a few other guys. But just to see this team, the way they're rounding into shape, rounding into form, they let Arkansas pick them apart. And they were playing very soft coverage to not give up the deep shots, the over the top stuff, the chunk plays in the pass game. But they were giving up, the 5, 8, even sometimes 10, 11, 12 yard, routes to some of these Arkansas wide receivers, allowing them to continue drives. The thing that I thought that Arkansas needed to do, and the guy over at Hogbeat, he thought that Mason showed. Mason thought that Arkansas wouldn't be able to establish the run against LSU, and I thought that that's what Arkansas needs to do if they had a shot to either win this game or at least keep them within the 17 and a half number. They established the run fairly well, running the ball 37 times for 137 yards. A 3.7 yard average is not something that you would look at and be like, hey, yeah, this is great. We ran the ball down their throats 3 yards in a cloud of dust. No, but it keeps the chains moving. It keeps you in a safer down and distance on second and third down as opposed to, longer down and distances. When you're averaging, 8, 9 yards, 7 yards or more on second and third downs, that makes it a lot more difficult to convert. Brent Ross, he says Daniels was underthrowing receivers badly in the first half, but great in the second half. Yes, definitely. And it really started, I think, with that underthrow to Brian Thomas Jr. right at the end of the first half, because I wrote that down in my game notes. And it was a free play. So it was like if he threw a pick, if he underthrew it, whatever it was, hey, it's a free play. We at least get 5 yards. Replay the down. So what? He ended up throwing a duck. Brian Thomas Jr. came back, caught the ball. He bobbled it, caught it again, and then made a move, ran in for the touchdown. Instead of LSU going down going to halftime down 13-3, they're now down 13-10, and they're getting the ball back. It was really good to see that play right there, because I figured, okay, he see how grossly he underthrew the ball here. It was a free play. He's already missed 2 other ones, one to Brian Thomas Jr. and then one to Malik Neighbors earlier in the game, underthrowing them as well. So I'm thinking, okay, he did it a third time, except this time, luckily it worked out for him. Maybe now he'll get that ball off just a little bit sooner, just get a little bit more out there and complete some more of those passes. Credit to Thomas on that play by Brent Ross. Yeah, definitely. Because listen, when a quarterback underthrows a ball, it's all on the receiver at that point to make the play or not make the play. The defense can do what they do, but once the quarterback has underthrown a ball, and it's not a back shoulder type of throw, because a back shoulder throw, you want to purposefully underthrow it, but underthrow it and place it in a position to where your receiver only can react to that ball because he's moving forward. The DB is technically moving backwards in his back pedal. Maybe if he turns and runs, but the theory is with a back shoulder throw, you're supposed to sort of underthrow it, but place it where your receiver can react to that ball. Underthrowing balls the way Jayden Daniels was throwing them, he was throwing them either a step or two too late, or he wasn't putting enough underneath the ball to get the ball out there and lead his receiver. Those guys had those DBs beat by at least a step or two, both times, and both times he underthrew it. I believe he has a strong enough arm to get it out there. It may just be the split second of cutting it loose just a little bit sooner, but it could be an arm strength issue thing. I'm not sure. I just know that when quarterbacks tend to underthrow a receiver, it's not always an arm strength thing. It could be an arm strength thing. It could also be a timing thing. So you just have to kind of look at it, take it for a grain of salt. Like you said, Brent, thank God Thomas was able to come back to that ball and make a play on it. Not only make a play on the ball, but keep his concentration to catch the ball and then make the move to get into the end zone. So that was great. But it just seems like maybe it could have been the pressure or the defenses that they were throwing at him, because I noticed several times where they would change things up a bit. And that's something that I've picked up on. That teams have kind of thrown at Jayden Daniels. Sometimes they'll pressure him, sometimes they won't. Sometimes he'll face a regular 4-man front, sometimes he'll face a 3-man front, sometimes he'll face a front where, it looks like they're going to blitz and they do send the house. Sometimes, so teams have been disguising things on defense, trying to throw as much as they can as possible at these LSU offensive linemen and at Jayden Daniels to try to confuse them and disrupt whatever they're trying to do on offense. It seems like when this team can't run the ball effectively the way they want to, whether it's just running it down your throat, it's RPO, or it's Jayden Daniels on keepers, or whatever it is, and they can't connect on the deep balls, that has some simpatico to me, to where that run game, like I tend to stress, and call me a little bit old school if you want, but if a team can run the ball effectively, no matter what position or what formation, whatever they run it out of, and at least give a threat of the run, it opens up everything else that you want to do on offense. So I tend to love to lean on the run game a little bit, but I also know the importance of the pass game and the way the rules and things have evolved and what this offense could look like with the guys that they have. You got a route technician like a Malik Nabers. You got, bigger body receivers like a Brian Thomas Jr. and a Kyron Lacy. You got a legit track guy in Chris Hilton. You got a big athletic, tight end in Mason Taylor. You even got running backs out of the backfield like Logan Diggs and guys like that can catch the ball out of the backfield. So you have weapons everywhere, all over the field, different kinds of weapons to get the ball to in the pass game. But it's up to Jayden Daniels to make better decisions, make quicker throws. It's up to that offensive line to protect him better. For example, I want to say it was on the first drive, one of the first drives. Arkansas pulled a simple line stunt. The guard and the center miscommunicated how to pass those guys along. And then next thing you know, there's two guys whiffing in space on blocks. And there's one guy coming free and one guy getting chipped. And it's like, with something like that, they didn't send an extra rusher. It was just, I want to say it was a 4-man front. The defensive tackles performed a line stunt. And I want to say the end over the left tackle, he kind of slanted in to kind of help them with the line stunt. The whole line slanted, but the 2 D tackles performed a game, a stunt there in the middle. And it threw him off. A lot of free rush to Jayden Daniels. Little wrinkles like that is what teams are going to be throwing at this offensive line and at this quarterback. And so these guys have to be prepared for it. You have to communicate. You have to be in sync. You have to know that they're going to do this. They're going to throw different things at you to try to throw you off your game. So it's just going to take a lot more communication and a lot more film study and looking at things and being prepared, knowing what worked against you to throw you off your game to make sure that teams can't keep doing it in the future. Another thing that I seem to notice is that whenever there's a blitz thrown at this team, they, they handle it okay, but there needs to be an immediate check down. I'm not sure if Jaden Daniels is not seeing it, if it's not in the play call or what, but it seems like there's times where there's a blitz thrown at him. They pick it up, but he kind of holds it, and then he has to do something else with the ball. So I'm kind of wondering what's going on with this team that they're getting all these blitzes thrown at them, and sometimes they handle it well, sometimes they don't. I believe so, Brent. He's asking, was there only 6 receivers with receptions? I believe so. That was unreal because there's always at least 7 or 8. There's Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, Mason Taylor, Aaron Anderson, Josh Williams, and Logan Diggs. So yeah, there was only 6 guys that caught a pass this game. So that's not what you're used to seeing from this team. You're used to seeing better distribution. However, it just wasn't the case this game. And even though you look at Jaden Daniels' numbers and you say, oh, he had a pretty good game, 20 of 29. You think, okay, he didn't have a horrible game outside of the interception that he threw. They on that play. You look at the game pre-snap, you send the running back into motion, and you're thinking, okay, man, coverage, quarterback follows, right? Not the case. What you have to look at is when your receivers get in their breaks on those plays, if the corner follows him, yes, now it's depending on how he follows him and if he picks up on him, yes, it could be man coverage. But if those corners sit there and those linebackers sit there and they're reading and reacting, now you're looking at zone coverage. They just disguised their zone coverage. He threw the ball out there. That corner sat back and knew, like, he's throwing it short and he's throwing it immediately to this outside because he thinks it's man coverage. He thinks he has a good out route, this outbreaking route, and the corner jumped it. So looking at just outside of that one play where he misread the defense and the defense had a good disguise on it there, he had a really good game. However, only 20 completions to 6 different guys. I mean, it just speaks to the fact that Malik Neighbors is really that good because every time Jaden Daniels throws in the ball, he's not forcing it to him at all. It's rare that you see him have to throw into a tight window when he's throwing to Malik Neighbors. He's normally wide open. Same thing with Brian Thomas Jr. He may force it in there to Brian Thomas Jr. because he's 6'4" and he's strong and athletic. However, he doesn't have to throw it into these incredibly tight windows, or he doesn't have to always just throw it up and pray that a guy comes down with it, or just trust in his receiver to come down with it, because he knows these guys are going to come down with it. But these guys are just getting open, and it's been steady. It's been consistent. It's something that he doesn't have to really worry about. So, I mean, hey, I'll live with only 6 different guys catching the pass from Jaden Daniels if they're going to win a game like this, 34 or 31. They're not going to score 40 every week, and they're not going to shut the other team down every week either. So a win is a win. I do get what you're saying as far as just only quote unquote 6 guys with a reception, but hey, at least they won the game. It could have been only 6 guys with a reception and they lost. So I'll take that with a grain of salt. Logan Diggs carried the load tonight as far as running the ball, which I was happy to see because Jaden Daniels wasn't the leading rusher tonight. Logan Diggs carried the ball 14 times for 97 yards, 6.9 average. Josh Williams had that 41-yard run. Jaden took the ball 10 times for 36 yards. Caleb Jackson had 2 runs for 12, and John Emery Jr. had a 2 for 3 yards. So running the ball 29 times throwing the ball 29 times. I mean, just as balanced as you can get. 50-50 run, 50-50 pass. That's perfect balance, and you won the game. The thing is, though, with this team, Jay Daniels is still carrying the ball to me way, way too much. But when he's such a weapon, I don't mind the off-schedule runs that he makes as long as he doesn't just decide to take it and run with it all the time. And he's really gotten better, and I give him credit for that. This year, I've seen from last year to this year, watching this team, I've seen where he'll hang in the pocket more and he'll escape pressure, but keep his eyes down the field, trying to look and see where he can make a play down the field before just tucking it and running. So I do appreciate that. With a guy like that, you're probably going to get a lot more of him carrying the ball than I would care for out of your quarterback, especially a thinly built quarterback like that. However, if this team's going to continue to pull it out and win games and he's going to stay healthy, then so be it. It is what it is. Just looking at their third down efficiency, this was one thing that I thought that Arkansas did fairly well, and they were 8 of 13 on third down conversions. Brent, you like the balance? I like the balance as well. Like, when you can run plays and it's not an obvious, okay, this is an obvious run play, this is an obvious pass play. When you're in like a second and 9 or a third and 13 or something like that, 9 times out of 10, it's a passing down because it's like, okay, we need to pick up some yards. However, when you're in, a second and 6 or second and 5, and then that turns into a third and 1, third and 2 maybe, or something like that, you don't know what a team can run in some of those plays because it could be a run play, it could be a pass play. So when you can effectively keep moving the ball down the field in both your run game and pass game are equally called and are equally also gaining yards for you, that's when I believe you're more effective. And LSU ran the ball at a 6.5 yard per rush clip as opposed to Arkansas's 3.7. So when you look at their averaging 6.5 a pass, 6.5 a rush, 11 yards a pass, both the run game and the pass game were both equally called as far as play calls are concerned and equally productive. Because if you had 29 runs and 29 passes, but you're only averaging, 3-4 yards a carry, or maybe 7-8 yards a pass, you're not very productive in either one. However, when you're averaging 11 yards a pass and 6.5 yards a run, and that's per play call, not per, completion with the pass game, but that's per play call. So you tend to be more productive when you can get balance and production from each side of the game. But again, back to third down conversions. Arkansas was able to keep their down and distance short because they were able to, run for that 3.7 yards a rush. They averaged, I believe it is 9.3 yards per pass. So their per pass average wasn't as much as LSU, was almost 2 yards less. However, what I consistently saw is they're getting, 7, 8, 9, 11 yards, 6, 5, 12, 15. They're getting these little plays here and there, dotting the passes. And then they're picking up, 2, 5, 6, 1, 2, 8, 3, 3, 4, 2 yards per run. And they're constantly just kind of moving the ball, not really losing yards as much. And they were consistently just keeping drives alive by keeping their down and distance at a more manageable rate. So they aren't getting into it's 3rd and 9, it's 3rd and 17, it's 3rd and 20, it's 3rd and 10. They're getting into 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, things like that, where it's a lot more manageable. So it's easier to convert those third downs when you can, pull an RPO with a KJ Jefferson. That way you got to suck the defense in because they're watching for him to keep, or they're looking for the give up the middle. They got to watch a little slant on the outside to the slot receiver. got to watch the outside receiver going deep. They got a guy out there who's like 6'7". He's like a small forward playing wide receiver. And so you got this 6'4", 240 athletic tight end, that's moving around the formation. So there's a lot of different moving parts to that. So it's easier for a team to pick a defense like this apart when this defense is trying to shut them down, but there's so many different things that you have to keep track of. You can only put a Howard Perkins Jr. in so many different positions. Mason Smith is still rounding himself back into shape, so he isn't able to play every snap, on the field to push the pocket from the inside. Mekhi Wingo, Jordan Jefferson, these guys along that defensive front. Womack showed up and showed out when he got a sack and his helmet was removed and everything. So I really love the way this defense is rounding into shape. It's just that one of the things that I want to see from them is tighter coverage on the outside, and I need to see this defensive line getting pressure quicker on these quarterbacks, because when the D line can get pressure quicker, those guys on the back end don't have to cover as long. And right now, those guys on the back end are covering way too long because that D line is not getting the pressure as much, as consistently, and as quick as they need to be. Wide open receivers, confusion, but that to me, gosh, that play, and I know which one you're talking about on that 3rd and 8 where they got the touchdown, tied the game, and everything with the 2-point conversion thereafter. But it just looked like there was it was kind of both, kind of some confusion with the busted coverage. It's almost the same thing if you ask me, because it looked like they were in a zone. Someone played up and let someone leak behind them. Because if you look at that play, Jefferson, when he snaps the ball, he's looking to his left. He's not even looking to his right initially. He kind of looks middle, looks left. He rolls out to his right and he sees the guy, and then he cuts it loose. And that's when he's behind the defense. Typically, when you see something like that, when the guy's behind the defense, there is some sort of miscommunication somewhere where a corner let a guy leak behind him because he's thinking the safety's over the top is going to help me. The safety is thinking, okay, the corner's going to run with this guy. I'm looking towards, over here in the middle of the field or what have you. So when you see a guy leak behind the entire defense and just get wide open like that, there is some sort of miscommunication, some sort of busted coverage or something like that. The thing is, when it happens after a play has broken down and there's sort of a scramble drill when the quarterback has broken the pocket and you're looking at 5-6 seconds into the play instead of the first 2 or 3 seconds, it could have been anything. It could have just been a lack of concentration on somebody's part, and them thinking that the play is going to be over with soon and losing focus, and somebody leaks behind them. So it's hard to tell without looking at the coach's film exactly what happened. But again, when you have a play that breaks down and it's 5 or 6 seconds later, anything could happen on a coverage like that. Typically, to me, a true busted coverage is like if a corner or someone is thinking that it's man coverage and it's actually a zone, and or they vacate their zone somehow or something like that. They think it's cover 2, and the corner plays up tight to the flats, and he lets a guy go up the sideline when you have a single high safety because it's a cover 3 call, something like that. That's a busted coverage. That's something you see almost immediately. Like the quarterback is going to see that busted coverage and is going to chunk the ball and get it out of there. But when you see a play break down, there could be some confusion as to who was supposed to go where and who was supposed to follow who in that type of play when a play goes long. So on that particular play, I will say you will get breakdowns like that, and it's just something that happens. Yeah, Hines on that wide open play. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about right now. Yeah, Brent, you and I are on the same page. It was just something that it broke down over time of the play, and he just leaked behind the defense. like I said, whenever the D line can't get pressure on the quarterback, can't bring him down, within those first few seconds, and he scrambles around, looks deep, and finds a guy open like that, it's just something that happens. That's going to happen, no matter who you have back there. I've seen it happen to All Pros, All Americans, just anybody. Over time, if you give a quarterback enough time to find somebody, he's going to eventually find somebody. And that's the whole point. You can't give him enough time to find somebody. And that's why I say, this D line has to get more pressure more quickly and more consistently on these quarterbacks so these DBs aren't hung out to dry all the time. Because I'm not going to sit up here and say that it's all the DB's fault for the big chunk plays, this, that, and the third, so on and so forth. The pass defense being so abysmal, as bad as, I won't say abysmal, but I'll just say as bad as it's been this season. You have to put some of the onus on that defensive front who isn't getting there, who isn't applying the pressure, and isn't doing it consistently enough. So that's something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be watched over the course of the season. Getting guys like Womack in and having him come in and rush the passer will leave guys like Harold Perkins Jr. to do other things like be in more coverage, be in more spy-looking plays, and maybe being a blitzer, every so often because they use him for so many different things. But instead of using him as a pass rusher off the edge, your defense looks much better when you can have pressure with other guys and you can let Harold Perkins Jr. float around and be a sort of like that sort of joker linebacker safety type of hybrid position where he can float around and play in different spaces, different coverages, and confuse the defense and give them hell in other ways besides just coming off the edge. Now, he is one of your better athletes. He is one of your better playmakers on the defense. So I get wanting to play him off the edge, but I just love when you have a guy like that who can play that many different positions, where you can put him in different spaces and allow him to roam free and cause havoc on the defense by, looking like he's going to blitz up the middle or come off the edge and then dropping into some sort of coverage or something. So that's the kind of thing I like to see. Uh, just imagine if you had confidence in your defensive front and you could tell a guy like Harold Perkins Jr., hey, go get Haas. Don't leave him. You stick wherever he goes, you go for the whole game. Shut him down. It would be great to have something like that available to you. However, when you need to use one of your better playmakers and better athletes to come off the edge, you aren't always afforded that luxury. So it'll just take this defensive line some more reps, some more work, individually on pass rush drills and getting off of blocks. Just guys getting rounding into shape, getting the rotations down pat. Because I know that's another thing that I hear a lot of athletes talk about is when you get those live reps in the game and you're used to playing and you get a rhythm, it's a lot easier for them to make plays and to feel confident and to play up to their full potential when they're used to their reps and used to their play counts and whatnot. It's a little bit harder when they're not used to it. Sort of like in basketball, when guys are used to getting a certain amount of shots and a certain amount of playing time, they can play a certain way. However, if they aren't getting those shots up or aren't getting that playing time, then they aren't always performing to their full capability. So that's something else to look forward to the rest of the season. Just taking a look at what this team has coming up as far as their schedule is concerned. Uh, okay, there we go. Next week they're going to Ole Miss. It's a 5 o'clock kick, so it's not one of those stupid early kicks like they had a couple weeks ago. Well, last weekend against Mississippi State with that terrible 11 o'clock kick. But I'm gonna say that this game is gonna be another like kind of how I called it last week, where Florida State was their wake up game, Grambling was their get right game, and last week against Mississippi State was the game where this team finally like put it together and says, yes, here we are. This is more of who we are as a team this year, coming into this game, and this is more of what you should expect from us here moving forward. This game tonight, to me, it said, yes, we're going to be challenged. Yes, we could be punched in the mouth. However, we're going to fight back. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. It matters how many times you get back up. And this team kept getting punched in the face. They kept coming back and they kept punching back. They didn't allow Arkansas to totally dictate this game to them. They actually went out and started to dictate the game to Arkansas. And that was very, very impressive. So to have a team that you should have blown out and you didn't, you couldn't, and they fought back and you fought back against them fighting back against you, just that back and forth, for them to survive that, come out with a victory was still impressive. Next week's game against Ole Miss is going to be something that this team is going to have to really, really, prepare for, because Lane Kiffin's going to want to have another signature victory under his belt. That program is looking to establish themselves, and beating a team like LSU, who was a top 10 team to open the season, and is just ranked right outside the top 10 right now. Who knows with the way today has gone, with how this team could be ranked, going into next week, or how Ole Miss themselves could be ranked going into next week, because they themselves had a loss to Alabama today. So just going into next week, it looks like, it's going to be another great SEC matchup. Two more teams in the SEC West that are aiming to come for that crown from Alabama, as far as them having a chokehold on it, basically. Uh, LSU was able to wrestle it away from them last year, and it's going to be a dogfight this year to see who gets it. But this game is going to be a lot. Hopefully, LSU can pull out the victory, and everybody can just put Ole Miss in their rearview mirror for this, as far as being a contender for this division for the SEC for this season. After that, they come and play Missouri. In Missouri, they have Auburn, Army, and then it's kind of like the level of competition goes down a little bit. You get a week off, and then you get Bama, and that's always bothered me about LSU in their football schedule. Is there's always a game somewhere along the way that this team either loses or wins way too tight that they shouldn't have. Let's hope that today's Arkansas 3-point win, when they were favored to win by 17 or more, let's hope today was the close win that they had in a season, that they typically have, that inexplicable close win or that inexplicable loss. Let's hope that today's game was that game, and that this team can move forward, rolling on to victory, claiming the SEC West, and going on to the SEC championship game again this year. Florida State's going to help them out as far as their ranking is concerned, because they were able to hold on and win in overtime today against Clemson. So if Florida State can, they've beaten their biggest, boogeyman in their conference today. I believe they snapped a 4 or 7 game losing streak to Clemson. So this is going to help LSU's ranking moving forward, especially when it comes to the committee and the college football playoff. If they can continue to win, continue to rack up the wins, and continue to look impressive, and Jayden Daniels can continue to put up the type of numbers he's putting up, not only is this team going to stay in contention for one of those spots in the college football playoff, but Jayden Daniels is also going to justify why he was the second leading favorite as far as betting odds when the Heisman betting odds opened for this season, behind the incumbent Caleb Williams over at USC. So there's a lot to look forward to next week with Ole Miss. Just stay tuned in to Death Valley Insider. I'll be getting out my By the Numbers article up for this week's game against Arkansas. We'll also have our Focus on the Future feature that we have with all the latest commits to the program coming up. There was also, I know that there was several basketball recruits in attendance into tonight's game. Some on official visits, some on unofficial visits. So there was just a lot going on in the program tonight, this weekend. They also had a big commit out of power forward out of Pasadena Memorial. So there's just a lot going on the website. We ask that you please tune into us on DeathValleyInsider.com. There's also the YouTube channel that you guys are watching us on. Please like, subscribe, uh, participate. Appreciate you, Brent Ross, for your questions and your feedback back and forth. You guys on the live thread tonight in the quad. Really appreciate you guys tuning in and keeping the live thread going throughout the game. I try to watch it as much as possible, but I'm trying to watch the game and take notes and keep up on the live thread. So it's like I'm like the phone, the computer, the TV. It's like I'm just like sometimes chasing my tail. But we really do appreciate you guys tuning in, especially our subscribers. Just really appreciate all of you guys for what you do, for what you bring to us. Really appreciate the comments, the interactions, and whatnot. We're just going to keep you guys informed and entertained as much as possible. So for that, for the website, for me, Jermaine, you can follow me there at @V_Jermaine. I try to keep it light, funny, as entertaining as possible. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably see a lot of pictures of me cooking, drinking, or my dog. So just please, thanks a lot for the tune in. You guys have a great night, and we'll catch you next week.